Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Facts channel. I'm so glad you found your way here. Maybe you had a long day, or maybe you're the kind of person who likes falling asleep to whale songs echoing through polar seas rather than counting sheep. Either way, tonight's journey is for you. Let your mind relax, your breathing slow, and your body grow light as ice floating on dark water, because tonight we're exploring Arctic whales. Creatures who glide beneath frozen worlds where silence holds mysteries deeper than any ocean trench. We'll drift from ancient migrations to the songs that travel through midnight waters, discovering how these gentle giants navigate a world of endless ice and fleeting summer light. Some of what you hear tonight may surprise you, or at least spark curiosity as you drift off. Before we begin, if this helps you unwind, consider liking and subscribing, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, let's begin. The bowhead whale lives longer than any other mammal on Earth. Scientists have found stone harpoon points embedded in the blubber of bowhead whales, harpoons that were made over 200 years ago, which means the whales swimming through Arctic waters today might have been alive when sailing ships first ventured into polar seas. Some bowhead whales may live for more than 2 centuries, drifting through the same frozen channels, generation after generation, watching the ice form and melt in patterns only they remember. Their longevity remains one of the ocean's most beautiful mysteries. A life measured not in decades but in the slow turning of centuries. This leads to something even more remarkable about how they achieve such extraordinary lifespans. The bowhead whale possesses unique genetic adaptations that repair damaged cells and resist cancer, mechanisms that scientists are only beginning to understand. Their DNA contains modifications to genes involved in cell repair, DNA damage response, and cancer suppression, making them nearly immune to the diseases that limit other mammals. In the cold darkness beneath Arctic ice, these whales carry within their cells the secrets to longevity, their bodies maintaining perfect balance year after year. Each heartbeat, slow and steady, pumps blood through a system so efficient it barely ages, like a clock that never needs winding. The beluga whale, sometimes called the sea canary, produces more varied sounds than almost any other marine creature. Belugas click, whistle, chirp, squeak, and create sounds that seem almost bird-like as they echo through the water. Their repertoire includes dozens of distinct calls, each serving different purposes, from navigation to social bonding to simply expressing contentment in the company of their pod. In Arctic bays and estuaries, beluga groups fill the water with cascading songs that travel for miles, a choir performing beneath the ice. Their voices rise and fall like music written by the ocean itself, conversations we can hear but barely begin to translate. While belugas charm us with their voices, they also display something equally captivating on the surface. Belugas are born dark gray, or even brown, but as they mature over 7 to 9 years, they gradually lighten until they become pure white, their skin the color of fresh snow against dark water. This transformation serves multiple purposes. The white coloration provides camouflage among ice floes and may help regulate body temperature in frigid waters. A group of adult belugas swimming together creates an almost ghostly procession, white forms gliding through midnight blue, their paleness making them seem like spirits rather than flesh and blood. They wear the Arctic itself as their skin, white meeting white in perfect harmony. Not all Arctic whales share this transformation from dark to light. The narwhal, that unicorn of the sea, maintains a mottled gray appearance throughout its life, its skin covered in leopard-like spots that grow denser with age. These spots create patterns as unique as fingerprints, each narwhal wearing its own constellation of marks. The mottling provides camouflage against the dappled light that filters through broken ice, helping them blend into a world where shadow and brightness constantly shift. Old narwhals become so heavily mottled, they appear almost white from a distance, their bodies telling the story of years spent beneath the ice, each spot a memory written on their skin. Beyond this distinctive appearance, there's another mystery that has captivated humans for centuries. The male narwhal grows a single tusk, actually an elongated left canine tooth that spirals counterclockwise and can reach lengths of 10 feet. This tusk contains millions of nerve endings and acts as a highly sensitive sensory organ, able to detect changes in water temperature, salinity, and pressure. Narwhals have been observed rubbing their tusks together in a behavior called tusking, possibly sharing information about water conditions or simply engaging in social bonding. The tusk emerges from the lip rather than the jaw, growing slowly over years, adding spiral upon spiral like a frozen record of time. It is at once a tool, a sensor, and perhaps something we still don't fully understand, a mystery extending from their heads into the cold currents, while narwhal tusks spiral upward. Arctic whales navigate downward into depths that would crush most creatures. Narwhals are among the deepest diving whales in the world, regularly descending to depths exceeding 5,000 feet in search of food. During these dives, which can last 25 minutes, their heart rate drops dramatically to conserve oxygen, slowing from a surface rate to just a few beats per minute. In the absolute darkness of the deep ocean, they hunt by echolocation, their clicks bouncing off fish and squid in the blackness. They descend like falling stones, silent and purposeful, entering a realm of pressure and cold that exists beyond light's reach. This brings us to how all Arctic whales manage the impossible cold of their environment. These whales possess blubber layers that can exceed 20 inches thick, creating insulation so effective that their core body temperature remains stable even when the surrounding water hovers just above freezing. The blubber doesn't just insulate, it stores energy during abundant feeding times and provides buoyancy, making swimming more effortless. Blood vessels within the blubber can constrict or dilate to regulate heat loss, allowing the whale to fine-tune its temperature like adjusting a thermostat. Wrapped in this blanket of fat, Arctic whales carry their warmth with them. Little suns swimming through frozen seas. Beyond their blubber, there's another adaptation that seems almost magical in its efficiency. Arctic whales have countercurrent heat exchange systems in their flippers, flukes, and tail, where warm arterial blood flowing from the body core passes right next to cold venous blood returning from the extremities. The warm blood heats the cold blood before it reaches the heart, while the cold blood cools the warm blood before it reaches the flippers, minimizing heat loss. This elegant system means they can maintain warm bodies while their flippers remain cold, preventing precious heat from bleeding into the Arctic Ocean. It's a design of perfect conservation. Every calorie of warmth preserved and recycled, nothing wasted in an environment where energy is precious. Not all Arctic whales live exclusively in the far north throughout the year. Some species undertake migrations that span thousands of miles, traveling between Arctic feeding grounds and more temperate breeding areas. Gray whales, which sometimes venture into Arctic waters, complete one of the longest migrations of any mammal, traveling up to 12,000 miles round trip between Mexican lagoons and the food-rich waters of the Bering and Chukchi seas. They follow ancient routes passed down through generations, invisible highways through the ocean that they navigate with precision. These journeys unfold slowly across months, the whales moving steadily toward distant destinations they've never forgotten. While gray whales migrate between Arctic and Pacific waters, the bowhead whale remains in Arctic and subarctic waters year-round, following the advancing and retreating ice. In spring, bowhead whales migrate northward, traveling along narrow leads in the ice, channels of open water that form in the pack ice like rivers through a frozen landscape. They time their migration to follow the ice edge north as the Arctic summer approaches, arriving in feeding grounds just as plankton blooms explode in the long-lit waters. In fall, they reverse direction, heading south ahead of the thickening ice. They are creatures of the ice itself, understanding its rhythms as intimately as the seasons. This leads to something remarkable about how they navigate through their frozen world. Bowhead whales use their massive heads, which can be 40% of their total body length, to break through sea ice that can be over a foot thick. They surface, lift their heads, and push through the ice to breathe, creating breathing holes when no open water exists. Their skulls are enormously powerful, reinforced with thick bone, allowing them to crack through barriers that would stop other animals. In the silence beneath solid ice, the sound of a bowhead breaking through must echo like distant thunder, a reminder that even in a frozen world, life finds a way to breathe. Beyond breaking ice, bowhead whales possess another gift that helps them survive the Arctic darkness. They have no dorsal fin, unlike most whales, which allows them to swim directly beneath ice without injury, sliding through the narrow space between the seafloor and the frozen ceiling above. This adaptation makes them perfectly suited for life in ice-covered waters, able to travel beneath solid ice for considerable distances. They glide through channels and passages that would trap other whales, their smooth backs barely clearing the ice above, living in spaces between solid and liquid that most creatures could never inhabit. While bowheads slide beneath the ice, they also demonstrate something equally impressive about their feeding behavior. Bowhead whales have the longest baleen plates of any whale, some reaching over 15 feet in length. Baleen is not bone but keratin, the same material as human fingernails, arranged in hundreds of plates that hang from the upper jaw like a massive curtain. The bowhead swims through clouds of tiny zooplankton and krill with its mouth open. Water flows in and strains out through the baleen, trapping thousands of tiny organisms. They filter feed continuously through rich Arctic waters, slowly cruising through invisible gardens of tiny life, harvesting abundance without urgency. This brings us to the delicate balance of Arctic ecosystems and how whales fit into it. A single bowhead whale can consume over a ton of food per day during peak feeding season, primarily tiny copepods that swarm in Arctic waters by the trillions. These copepods feed on phytoplankton, microscopic plants that bloom when sunlight returns to Arctic waters after the dark winter. The whole system depends on light and ice and temperature, each element connected to the others in chains of dependency. Whales feed at the top of this chain, harvesting the abundance that begins with sunlight touching cold water, completing a circle that connects the smallest plants to the largest animals. Not all Arctic whales feed the same way. While bowheads filter feed, other species hunt more actively. Narwhals and belugas are toothed whales that pursue individual prey, diving deep to catch Greenland, halibut, Arctic cod, squid, and various shrimp. They hunt in the darkness using echolocation, sending out clicking sounds that bounce off prey, creating sound pictures of the world around them. Each click returns information about distance, size, and movement, allowing them to hunt effectively in total darkness. They paint their world in sound, seeing with their ears in places where eyes become useless. While we speak of hunting, let's explore it gently through the lens of the beluga's remarkable flexibility. Unlike most whales, belugas have unfused cervical vertebrae, which means they can turn their heads from side to side and up and down, a flexibility most whales lack. This adaptation helps them navigate through complex ice formations and search for food in rocky Arctic seafloors. They can look around corners in a sense, peering into crevices and beneath ice ridges where prey might hide. Swimming through Arctic waters, belugas move with an almost curious grace, heads turning to examine their world, exploring with a mobility that seems almost playful. This flexibility extends to their social nature as well. Belugas are highly social creatures that live in pods ranging from a few individuals to several hundred during migration. Within these groups, they maintain complex social bonds, communicating constantly with their extensive vocal repertoire. Mothers and calves stay close together, the calf often swimming in the mother's slipstream to conserve energy. The pods coordinate movements, sometimes hunting cooperatively, or simply traveling together through ice-choked waters. In the company of their kind, belugas find safety, sharing the challenges of Arctic life with companions who speak their language. Beyond their social pods, there's something even more touching about how belugas interact across species. There are documented cases of belugas appearing to help other creatures in distress, including humans. One famous beluga repeatedly retrieved equipment dropped by divers in Arctic waters, bringing items back to the surface as if understanding the divers needed help. Whether this represents genuine altruism or simply curiosity, we cannot know for certain, but the behavior suggests intelligence and awareness that extends beyond basic survival instincts. In the cold waters where they live, belugas demonstrate something that warms the heart, a capacity for interaction that transcends simple animal behavior. While belugas show flexibility and social grace, the bowhead whale demonstrates something equally remarkable about Arctic adaptation. Bowhead whales have the thickest blubber of any animal, with some individuals possessing blubber layers approaching 28 inches thick. This extraordinary insulation allows them to maintain body temperatures around 97 degrees Fahrenheit while swimming in water that hovers near freezing. The blubber creates such effective insulation that the whale loses almost no heat to the surrounding ocean, carrying an internal summer through perpetual winter. Beneath their dark skin lies warmth that never fades, protected and preserved against the endless cold. This remarkable insulation connects to another aspect of their biology that speaks to their ancient lineage. Bowhead whales are among the slowest growing and latest maturing whales, taking decades to reach full adulthood and reproductive maturity. Females don't reach sexual maturity until around 25 years of age, and they give birth only once every 3 to 4 years after that. Each calf represents an enormous investment. The pregnancy lasts 13 to 14 months, and calves nurse for about a year, drinking milk that is over 50% fat. Life unfolds slowly for bowhead whales, measured in decades rather than years, each generation building gradually on the one before. Not all Arctic whales grow at the same measured pace. Baby belugas are born in warmer estuaries and protected bays during summer months, giving them time to build strength before facing the open Arctic Ocean. Newborn belugas are about 5 feet long at birth and weigh around 150 pounds, tiny compared to their mothers who can reach 15 feet and weigh 3,000 pounds. The calves are born dark gray or brown, matching the color of the estuarine waters where they spend their first weeks, providing camouflage during their most vulnerable time. In protected waters, beluga mothers nurse their young, while the short Arctic summer passes overhead, preparing them for the journey into colder waters. While baby belugas stay close to their mothers, something else remarkable happens in beluga populations. Female belugas sometimes nurse calves that aren't their own, and groups of females may cooperate in watching over young calves, a behavior called alloparenting. This cooperative care helps ensure calf survival. Even if something happens to the biological mother, the pod becomes an extended family, multiple generations traveling together, the wisdom of older females helping guide younger ones. In the company of grandmothers, mothers, and calves, beluga pods carry culture and knowledge across time, teaching the next generation how to live in a challenging world. This brings us to the fascinating realm of whale communication and how it travels through water. Sound moves about 4 times faster through water than through air, and in the Arctic Ocean, the clarity of cold water allows whale vocalizations to travel extraordinary distances. A bowhead whale's low-frequency calls can travel hundreds of miles under optimal conditions, reaching across vast expanses of ocean to contact other whales far beyond visual range. These calls vibrate through the water at frequencies so low that humans can barely hear them, deep rumbles that resonate through the sea itself. Whales, separated by distances that would take days to swim, can remain in acoustic contact, their voices bridging the miles. Beyond simple communication, there's something almost haunting about the songs some whales produce. Bowhead whales sing complex songs that can last for hours, with individuals sometimes singing continuously throughout the dark Arctic winter. These songs contain phrases that repeat and evolve, with new elements appearing and spreading through the population over time. Scientists have recorded bowhead songs that contain patterns never heard before, suggesting these whales possess a cultural tradition of musical innovation. In the darkness beneath winter ice, where no light penetrates, and the world exists in shades of black, bowhead whales sing to the empty ocean, their voices the only warmth in the cold. While bowheads sing their winter songs, narwhals produce different sounds suited to their hunting lifestyle. Narwhals create intense clicks for echolocation, some of the most powerful sounds produced by any animal relative to their body size. These clicks allow them to detect fish in complete darkness at depths where no trace of surface light remains. The clicks bounce off prey and return to the narwhal, which processes this acoustic information through specialized organs in its head, creating detailed sound pictures of its surroundings. In the absolute dark of the deep Arctic Ocean, narwhals hunt not by sight but by listening to echoes, navigating a world built entirely from sound. This leads to another mystery that scientists are still working to understand. Narwhals show remarkable sight fidelity, returning to the same fjords and summering grounds year after year, sometimes to the exact same locations. They navigate across hundreds of miles of featureless Arctic Ocean, traveling beneath ice where no visual landmarks exist, yet they arrive precisely where they intend to go. How they navigate with such precision remains partially mysterious. They likely use a combination of magnetic field sensing, memory of seafloor features, and acoustic cues from the ocean itself. Like salmon returning to their birth streams, narwhals carry maps in their minds. Invisible highways they follow through water that all looks the same. Not all aspects of Arctic whale lives involve such mystery. Some behaviors are beautifully simple. Belugas appear to play, engaging in behaviors that serve no obvious purpose beyond enjoyment. They've been observed blowing bubble rings, chasing each other in apparent games, and manipulating objects like pieces of wood or ice with their mouths. Young belugas especially seem to explore their world with curiosity, investigating new objects and practicing hunting behaviors long before they need to catch real prey. In Arctic waters that can be harsh and unforgiving, belugas find moments of lightness, playing like children in the summer Sunday. While belugas play at the surface, bowhead whales demonstrate something equally endearing about their social behavior. Bowhead whales have been observed breaching, launching their enormous bodies out of the water and crashing back down in spectacular displays. A 60-ton whale launching itself into the air creates a splash visible for miles, and a sound that echoes across the water like distant thunder. Why they breach remains debated. It might remove parasites, serve as communication, or simply feel good. Whatever the reason, the sight of a bowhead whale breaching represents one of nature's most powerful exhibitions of grace. Something so massive, moving with such freedom it seems to defy gravity itself. This power exists alongside unexpected gentleness. Bowhead whales have relatively small eyes for their size, about the size of a grapefruit on an animal that can measure 60 feet long. Their vision is likely limited compared to their hearing, yet those small eyes watch the world with what appears to be calm awareness. When bowhead whales approach research boats, they sometimes spy hop, lifting their heads vertically out of the water to look around, rotating slowly, as if curious about the world above the surface. In those moments, humans and whales regard each other across the boundary between air and water, two forms of intelligence meeting briefly before the whale sinks back into its world. Beyond their gentle curiosity, bowhead whales show remarkable resilience in their Arctic home. During the darkest winter months, when the Arctic Ocean freezes almost solid and surface temperatures plummet to 50 below zero, bowhead whales remain active beneath the ice. They find breathing holes or create new ones by breaking through ice with their powerful heads, maintaining access to air even when the surface world becomes completely frozen. They swim beneath ice sheets that stretch to the horizon, living in darkness that lasts for months, waiting patiently for spring to arrive. Their resilience speaks to adaptation perfected over millions of years, bodies and behaviors shaped by the harshest environment on Earth. This resilience extends across the species range, which once spread throughout the Arctic and subarctic waters of the Northern Hemisphere. Bowhead whales originally existed in several distinct populations, each adapted to specific regions of the Arctic. The Bering-Chukchi-Beaufort population, the largest remaining group, numbers around 10,000 individuals, and follows seasonal ice patterns across the North American Arctic. Other populations, like those in the Sea of Okhotsk and the eastern Canada-West Greenland region, remain smaller but stable. Each population maintains its own migration routes and feeding grounds, connected by species but separated by vast distances. They are one family divided by geography, living parallel lives in different corners of the frozen north. While bowhead populations remain separated by geography, narwhals demonstrate their own patterns of distribution and movement. Narwhals primarily inhabit the Atlantic sector of the Arctic, particularly the waters around Greenland and the Canadian Arctic archipelago. In summer, they congregate in ice-free fjords and coastal areas, sometimes gathering in groups of several hundred individuals. As winter approaches and ice begins to form, they move to offshore areas where strong currents and winds keep some water open even in the depths of winter. They spend the dark months in these offshore areas, living at the edge of the pack ice, where open water persists, waiting for the seasons to turn again. This seasonal movement connects to something remarkable about how narwhals experience their world. Narwhals spend much of their time in near-freezing water, yet they maintain precise control over their body temperature through a combination of blubber insulation and behavioral adaptations. During deep dives into even colder water, their peripheral body temperature can drop significantly while their core remains warm, conserving energy and oxygen during extended time at depth. When they return to the surface, blood flow to their extremities increases, warming areas that cooled during the dive. They exist in a state of constant thermal adjustment, their bodies responding moment by moment to the changing temperature of their environment. Beyond temperature regulation, there's another aspect of deep diving that reveals how extraordinary these animals are. When narwhals dive to extreme depths, the pressure would normally force nitrogen from their lungs into their bloodstream, causing decompression sickness, the same condition that affects human divers who surface too quickly. But narwhals avoid this by exhaling before diving, collapsing their lungs completely so no air remains to be compressed. They make their deep dives on a single breath already expelled, relying entirely on oxygen stored in their blood and muscles. In the crushing pressure of the deep sea, they descend with empty lungs, defying what seems possible. While narwhals master the depths, belugas demonstrate their own remarkable diving abilities. Belugas can dive to depths exceeding 2,000 feet, though most of their dives remain shallower as they search for food along the seafloor or pursue fish in the water column. Their dives typically last 10 to 15 minutes, though they're capable of staying submerged for over 20 minutes if necessary. Unlike narwhals, belugas often hunt in shallower waters where more prey exists, but they retain the ability to dive deep when needed. They are creatures of flexibility, adapting their behavior to whatever opportunities the ocean presents. This flexibility appears in their habitat choices as well. During summer, belugas move into river estuaries, sometimes traveling miles upstream into fresh or brackish water. The Churchill River in Canada becomes a gathering place for thousands of belugas each summer, the white whales arriving as the ice breaks up to spend time in warmer, shallower water. Scientists believe they may seek these estuaries to give birth in safer waters, to molt their old skin more easily in warmer temperatures, or simply because estuaries provide abundant food during summer months. Whatever draws them, the sight of hundreds of white whales in shallow brown water creates a scene of surreal beauty. Arctic creatures temporarily visiting temperate shores. Not all Arctic whales venture into estuaries and rivers. Bowhead whales remain in saltwater throughout their lives, adapted specifically to marine environments. Their kidneys efficiently process salt, allowing them to drink seawater and extract fresh water while excreting the excess salt. This adaptation is common to all whales, but particularly crucial for Arctic species that can't easily access fresh water sources. They carry desalination systems within their bodies, biological filters that separate fresh water from salt more efficiently than any human technology. In an ocean of undrinkable water, they find everything they need, their bodies extracting moisture from the same sea that surrounds them. While bowheads filter their internal waters, They also filter the ocean itself for food. The copepods that make up the majority of their diet are tiny crustaceans, barely visible to the human eye. Yet they swarm in Arctic waters in such concentrations they color the sea. During peak blooms, a single cubic meter of water might contain hundreds of thousands of copepods, creating clouds of tiny life. Bowhead whales swim through these clouds with their mouths open, their baleen straining millions of copepods from the water each day. The whale moves slowly and steadily, cruising through abundance without urgency, filtering life from the sea with the patience of tides. This patient feeding style contrasts with the more active hunting of toothed whales, like narwhals and belugas. These smaller whales must pursue individual prey, chasing fish through the water column or along the seafloor. A narwhal hunting at depth moves with purpose, using echolocation to track fish in the darkness, then accelerating to catch its prey. The hunt requires energy and precision. Each fish, a small reward that must be pursued individually. Yet narwhals succeed thousands of times, catching enough fish to sustain their large bodies through the long Arctic winter. They are persistence hunters, succeeding through repetition rather than spectacular individual catches. Beyond hunting fish, narwhals demonstrate something unexpected about their diet. Analysis of narwhal stomach contents reveals they consume a variety of prey, including Greenland, halibut, polar and Arctic cod, squid, and various shrimp species. But they also eat benthic organisms, creatures that live on or in the sea floor, which suggests they hunt along the bottom during their deep dives. They descend through thousands of feet of open water to reach the seafloor itself, hunting in the sediment and rocks of the deep ocean bottom. In those depths where pressure could crush a submarine, narwhals search for food in absolute darkness, guided only by sound and perhaps the sensitivity of their remarkable tusks. This brings us to new discoveries about the narwhal's tusk and how it might function. Recent research suggests that narwhals can sense salinity gradients in the water through their tusks, helping them locate pockets of meltwater or areas where different water masses meet, boundaries that often concentrate prey. The millions of nerve endings in the tusk connect directly to the narwhal's brain, providing constant environmental data. Each tusk is a sensory organ of extraordinary sensitivity, feeling subtle changes in the water that pass unnoticed by other animals. They wear their sensors outside their bodies, extended into the environment like biological instruments, measuring the invisible properties of their world. While narwhals sense their environment through specialized tusks, all Arctic whales possess acute hearing that shapes how they experience the ocean. The underwater acoustic environment of the Arctic is distinctive. In summer, the water fills with sounds from melting ice, shifting flows, and abundant marine life. In winter, the frozen surface dampens surface noise, creating eerie quiet, broken only by the groans and cracks of moving ice. Whales live within these acoustic landscapes, hearing textures and patterns humans can barely imagine. Every splash, crack, and call carries information, painting sound pictures of a world hidden beneath ice. Not all sounds in Arctic waters come from natural sources, which brings us to something that concerns researchers: human activities. Shipping, oil exploration, military sonar, and construction add artificial noise to Arctic waters. For animals that rely so heavily on sound for communication, navigation, and hunting, this acoustic pollution can interfere with essential behaviors. The low-frequency rumble of ship engines can mask whale calls, forcing them to vocalize louder or more frequently to be heard. Seismic surveys for oil exploration create blasts of sound, powerful enough to cause hearing damage at close range. The Arctic, once one of the quietest places on Earth, grows noisier each year as human activity increases. While we must acknowledge these challenges, let's return to the wonder of how Arctic whales naturally interact with their acoustic environment. Bowhead whales can adjust their calling frequency and volume in response to ambient noise levels, demonstrating sophisticated awareness of their acoustic environment. When conditions are quiet, they call softly at frequencies that travel efficiently through the water. When noise increases, they shift their calls to frequencies less likely to be masked, or they call more loudly to overcome the interference. This flexibility shows remarkable intelligence. They understand that communication requires adaptation, adjusting their voices to suit the conditions, like a human, raising their voice in a noisy room. This intelligence extends to how mother whales communicate with their calves. Bowhead mothers and calves maintain almost constant acoustic contact, exchanging calls that keep them connected even when visibility is limited by ice or turbid water. The calls are often quieter than adult whale songs. Soft vocalizations meant for short distances, intimate conversations between mother and child. Calves learn to vocalize by listening to their mothers, gradually developing their own voices through months of practice. In the darkness beneath Arctic ice, these teaching moments occur constantly, knowledge passing from one generation to the next through sound. Beyond mother-calf communication, there's evidence that Arctic whales may recognize individual voices. Belugas, with their complex vocal repertoires, appear to have signature calls, distinctive sounds that identify specific individuals to other pod members. When a beluga pod spreads out while feeding or traveling, individuals maintain contact through regular calling, each voice distinct enough to be recognized. This ability to identify individuals by voice alone suggests sophisticated social intelligence and memory. They know not just that another whale is calling, but which whale is calling, maintaining awareness of their social group across distances and through darkness. While belugas track each other through sound, narwhals demonstrate another fascinating aspect of Arctic whale social structure. Male narwhals with larger tusks appear to have higher social status within groups, and males sometimes engage in gentle tusking behavior, where they rub tusks together or cross them like swords. This behavior rarely appears aggressive. Rather, it seems more like social interaction or possibly information exchange. The tusks click together with hollow sounds that carry through the water, two males meeting tusk to tusk in encounters that look almost ceremonial. Whether they're establishing dominance, sharing information, or simply engaging in a narwhal form of greeting remains partially mysterious. This social structure exists within the broader pattern of narwhal aggregations. In summer, narwhals gather in traditional summering grounds, certain fjords and coastal areas that see the same whales return year after year. These gatherings can include hundreds or even thousands of individuals, creating concentrations of narwhals not seen elsewhere in the Arctic. The whales mill about in relatively shallow water, their tusks occasionally breaking the surface like a forest of spiral horns. They seem relaxed in these summer refuges, feeding on abundant Arctic char and sculpin, while the brief summer passes overhead. For a few short months, narwhals exist in something approaching abundance before dispersing into the vast Arctic again. Not all narwhals bear tusks, which brings us to an interesting point about sexual dimorphism in these whales. While most adult males possess tusks, females typically do not, though approximately 15% of females develop small tusks. This gender difference suggests that tusks serve purposes beyond basic survival. If tusks were essential for feeding or navigation, both sexes would likely possess them. Instead, male narwhals carry these extraordinary appendages, while females generally do not, implying that tusks play roles in male-specific behaviors, like competition for mates or displaying fitness. Yet the fact that males without tusks and females without tusks survive perfectly well adds to the mystery of what purpose these remarkable structures truly serve. While narwhal tusks remain mysterious, the baleen of bowhead whales serves an obvious and essential purpose. The baleen plates grow continuously throughout the whale's life, worn down by constant use, but always growing back, like fingernails that never stop extending. The outer edge of each baleen plate consists of coarse hairs that trap food while allowing water to flow through. Oil glands in the whale's mouth keep the baleen supple and prevent it from becoming brittle in cold water. This living filtration system requires maintenance and care, the whale's body constantly producing new baleen material to replace what wears away. It's a renewable resource, grown fresh throughout their extremely long lives. This continual growth connects to the overall pattern of whale biology. These are animals built for the long term. Most Arctic whales grow slowly, mature late, reproduce infrequently, and live for many decades. This life history strategy makes sense in a stable environment where there's little advantage to rapid reproduction. Instead, whales invest heavily in individual survival and in the few offspring they produce. Each whale represents decades of accumulated experience and knowledge, particularly older females, who serve as repositories of information about ice conditions, feeding grounds, and migration routes. In whale societies, age brings wisdom that benefits the entire group beyond their life history. There's something touching about how Arctic whales care for their young. Bowhead calves stay with their mothers for at least a year, nursing on milk that contains up to 53% fat, one of the richest milks in the animal kingdom. This high fat content helps calves rapidly build the blubber layer they'll need to survive Arctic cold. Mother bowheads are attentive and protective, keeping their calves close and rising to breathe in synchrony with them. The bond between mother and calf represents the strongest relationship in whale society, a connection that lasts through the calf's first year and possibly longer. While we speak of mothers and calves, let's drift to the question of how Arctic whales rest. Whales are conscious breathers. They must actively decide to breathe rather than breathing automatically like humans. This means they cannot fall into deep unconscious sleep, or they would drown. Instead, whales engage in unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, where one half of the brain sleeps, while the other half remains alert enough to control breathing. During these rest periods, they often swim slowly near the surface, rising to breathe regularly while part of their mind rests. They exist in a state between waking and sleeping, never fully conscious but never completely unconscious, their minds taking turns at rest. This partial sleeping allows them to remain aware of their environment even during rest. A resting whale still monitors for predators, maintains contact with pod members, and surfaces to breathe at regular intervals. The sleeping hemisphere experiences slow brain waves similar to human sleep, presumably gaining the restorative benefits of rest, while the waking hemisphere maintains essential functions. After a period of time, the hemispheres switch roles, allowing both sides of the brain to rest in alternation. It's a solution to the problem of being an air-breathing animal in the water. They've learned to rest without ever stopping, to sleep without truly sleeping. Not all Arctic whales face the same dangers while resting or at other times. Adult bowhead whales are so large they have few natural predators, though killer whales will occasionally attack bowheads, particularly young or weakened individuals. Narwhals and belugas, being smaller, face more threats from killer whales and potentially from polar bears that might catch whales trapped in ice. But for the most part, Arctic whales face fewer predator threats than many animals, their size and intelligence providing protection. The greatest dangers they face come not from other animals, but from the environment itself. Being trapped under ice, caught in shallow water during low tide, or simply misjudging the time they have before freeze-up. While predators pose limited danger, Arctic whales still show wariness and defensive behaviors. When belugas detect killer whales, they often flee into very shallow water where the larger predators cannot follow, sometimes even swimming into river estuaries to escape. They recognize the threat and respond with specific avoidance strategies passed down through their pods. This shows cultural knowledge. Young whales learning from experienced adults what dangers look like and how to respond. The pod becomes a school, and every encounter with danger becomes a lesson for the next generation. This brings us to something remarkable about how long this cultural knowledge has been accumulating. Bowhead whales have existed in their current form for millions of years, surviving multiple ice ages and warm periods. adapting to changing Arctic conditions while maintaining their essential nature. The routes they swim, the places they feed, the songs they sing, all of this represents accumulated knowledge spanning countless generations. Each whale is born into a culture older than human civilization, learning ways of life refined over geological time. They carry the memory of ice ages within their populations, strategies for survival tested across millennia. Beyond their ancient lineage, Arctic whales provide unexpected benefits to their ecosystem even after death. When a whale dies and sinks to the deep ocean floor, its massive body becomes a whale fall, a concentrated source of nutrients in the nutrient-poor deep sea. A single large whale carcass can support a specialized community of organisms for decades, providing food for creatures from hagfish to bacteria specially adapted to process whale remains. The whale's life sustains countless other lives even in death, its body giving back to the ocean that sustained it. In this way, whales connect even the deep sea floor to the sunlit surface, carrying energy from one realm to another. While whale falls sustain deep sea life, living whales support Arctic ecosystems in other ways. Whale feces, rich in nutrients, particularly iron and nitrogen, fertilizes the surface waters where phytoplankton grow. These microscopic plants form the base of the entire marine food web, and whale excrement helps sustain their growth. This creates a positive feedback loop. Whales consume vast amounts of small organisms, process that food through their enormous bodies, and release nutrients that support the growth of the plankton that feeds the small organisms that whales eat. They are not just consumers but active participants in nutrient cycling, their bodies serving as biological pumps that redistribute resources throughout the water column. Not all aspects of whale ecology involve such abstract concepts. Sometimes the relationship between whales and their environment is beautifully direct. Belugas, molting in river estuaries, often rub themselves on gravel bottoms, using the rough surface to help remove old skin. After molting, their new white skin appears fresh and bright, making post-molt belugas among the most pristinely white animals in nature. They emerge from their summer molting grounds with skin like new snow, carrying their brightness back into the darker Arctic waters. This renewal happens every summer, a shedding of the old and emergence of the new, their bodies marking the passage of seasons. While belugas emerge renewed each summer, bowhead whales carry permanent records of their lives on their bodies. Besides ancient harpoon wounds that some individuals bear, bowhead whales accumulate scars from ice, from interactions with other whales, and from parasites. Each mark tells a story: a scratch from sliding beneath rough ice, a scrape from another whale's baleen, a scar from a wound long healed. Their dark skin becomes a map of their lives, every mark a memory written in scar tissue. To see an old bowhead is to see history made visible, decades of life recorded on living skin. This permanence of scars contrasts with the impermanence of their environment. The Arctic Ocean is a place of constant transformation. Ice forms and melts, temperatures fluctuate, currents shift, and light cycles between months of brightness and months of darkness. Arctic whales live in this transforming world with apparent equanimity, adapting to changes that would challenge most species. When winter ice covers the ocean, they find the breathing holes and leads that remain open. When summer melts the ice, they spread into newly accessible waters. They flow with the changes, as much a part of the Arctic as the ice itself. Beyond seasonal changes, Arctic whales face longer-term environmental shifts. The Arctic Ocean is warming faster than almost any other place on Earth, with ice forming later in fall and melting earlier in spring. For bowhead whales, this might mean extended feeding seasons and access to areas previously covered by ice. For narwhals, which depend on dense, seasonal pack ice, warming could disrupt the habitat they've specialized in for millions of years. The future remains uncertain, but these ancient species have survived changes before, their long lives and slow reproduction providing resilience across generations. They've outlasted ice ages and warming periods alike, and they carry within them the adaptability that has allowed them to persist. While climate shifts gradually, whale behavior shifts with immediate conditions. Scientists have observed that bowhead whales adjust their feeding intensity based on prey density, CHE. They feed more actively when copepod concentrations are high, storing energy in blubber for periods when food is scarce. This flexibility allows them to take advantage of the unpredictable abundance of Arctic waters. They feast during plenty and endure during scarcity, their massive bodies serving as storage containers for energy harvested during brief summers. In a world of extremes, they've learned to smooth out the variability, carrying summer's abundance into winter's scarcity. This feast and famine adaptation extends to their metabolic flexibility as well. Arctic whales can adjust their metabolism seasonally, slowing their metabolic rate during winter, when food is scarce and swimming is more energetically expensive beneath heavy ice. Their bodies become more efficient, extracting maximum energy from stored blubber while minimizing waste. This metabolic slowdown is subtle. They remain active and maintain body temperature, but it helps them extend their energy reserves across the long, dark months. They exist in a state of careful conservation, their biology fine-tuned to extract every possible advantage from the resources available. While their bodies conserve energy, their minds remain active and engaged. Studies of captive belugas suggest these whales possess excellent long-term memory, remembering specific sounds and tasks even after years without exposure. In the wild, this memory likely helps them navigate back to specific locations across vast distances, remember which areas provide good feeding, and recognize individual pod members even after long separations. Their brains, among the largest of any animal relative to body size, contain the capacity for complex thought and memory that rivals many terrestrial mammals. Behind those small eyes and beneath that domed forehead, consciousness processes the Arctic world in ways we're only beginning to understand. This intelligence manifests in unexpected ways. Belugas in aquariums have been observed imitating human speech patterns, producing sounds that approximate words or phrases they hear repeatedly. While they cannot speak human language in any meaningful sense, their ability to mimic complex sounds demonstrates remarkable vocal control and perhaps a desire to communicate across species boundaries. In the wild, this mimicry ability might help them learn pod dialects or create new calls. They possess the neural architecture for complex sound production. Their voice is capable of ranges and variations that rival the most accomplished human singers. Beyond mimicry, there's evidence that belugas can learn from each other through observation and imitation. When one whale discovers a successful hunting technique or a way to solve a problem, others in the pod may adopt similar strategies. This cultural transmission of information means that beluga populations can develop local traditions, specific hunting methods, migration patterns, or behaviors that characterize particular pods. Each pod becomes slightly unique, carrying its own accumulated knowledge and customs. They are not just a species but a collection of cultures, each pod with its own identity shaped by its history and environment. While belugas develop pod-specific cultures, bowhead whales demonstrate their own form of cultural transmission through song. The songs of bowhead whales change over time, with new song types appearing and spreading through the population, while old songs disappear. Scientists tracking these songs over multiple years have documented how musical phrases rise and fall in popularity, almost like musical trends in human culture. The whales are not simply repeating ancient songs passed down unchanged. They're actively creating new music, innovating and sharing their innovations with others. In the frozen darkness, bowhead whales compose symphonies that evolve year by year. This musical creativity raises profound questions about whale consciousness and what their lives feel like from the inside. When a bowhead whale sings a new phrase, does it experience something we might recognize as creativity or artistic expression? When it hears another whale's song across miles of dark water, does it feel something like companionship? We cannot know what subjective experience exists behind their actions, but the complexity of their behavior suggests an inner life richer than we once imagined. They are not simply biological machines responding to stimuli. They are beings with individual experiences, memories, and perhaps even something approaching emotions. Not all whale behavior suggests such depth. Some responses are clearly instinctive. When a whale breaks through ice to breathe, it's following an imperative as old as its species, responding to the urgent need for air, with behaviors honed over millions of years. Yet even in these instinctive moments, individual variation appears. Some whales are bolder about breaking thick ice, while others seem more cautious. Some prefer certain types of breathing holes, while others show no preference. Within the framework of instinct, personality emerges, individual differences that make each whale unique. These individual differences extend to feeding preferences as well. While bowhead whales primarily feed on copepods, individual whales show preferences for certain prey types or feeding locations. Some whales may favor areas with specific copepod species, while others feed more generously across different prey. These preferences might arise from early experiences, from learned behaviors, or from subtle differences in taste sensitivity. Whatever their origin, they demonstrate that Arctic whales are not interchangeable members of their species, but individuals with their own habits and inclinations. While we speak of individual whales, let's consider the remarkable navigation that brings them back to specific places each year. Bowhead whales migrate thousands of miles between winter and summer grounds, yet they arrive at traditional feeding areas with remarkable precision. They navigate using multiple cues. The Earth's magnetic field provides directional information. Seafloor topography creates acoustic landmarks, and memories of previous journeys guide them along familiar routes. They may also use the position of the sun when visible and the patterns of ice formation. All of these cues combine to create a mental map of extraordinary detail, allowing them to find their way through a featureless ocean. This navigation ability is all the more remarkable when we consider it must work in darkness. During winter migrations or deep dives, bowhead whales navigate through absolute blackness where visual cues cease to exist. They rely entirely on non-visual senses: sound, touch, magnetic sensing, and memory. In this dark world, they maintain their orientation and purpose, swimming steadily toward destinations they cannot see but somehow know are there. They are masters of the invisible, navigating by information sources humans struggle even to detect. Beyond navigation, Arctic whales demonstrate remarkable spatial memory. Belugas returning to summer estuaries don't simply arrive at a general location. They return to specific rivers, specific bays, sometimes even specific sections of shoreline. This precision suggests they remember detailed features of these locations from previous visits, perhaps the shape of the coastline, the depth patterns, or distinctive acoustic features. A beluga that visited an estuary as a calf may return decades later and navigate to the exact same area, memory bridging the years as if no time had passed. While memory guides their journeys, Arctic whales also must respond to immediate conditions that change year by year. Ice patterns vary annually. Leads open in different locations. Freeze-up occurs at different times, and the overall ice coverage fluctuates. Whales cannot simply follow memorized routes blindly, but must adjust their movements based on current ice conditions. This requires constantly evaluating their environment, making decisions about where to go and when to move. They balance the pull of traditional routes with the necessity of responding to present reality. Their migration, a combination of memory and improvisation, this flexibility in the face of changing conditions speaks to their resilience. Arctic whales have survived periods of intense hunting pressure that reduced some populations to small fractions of their original numbers. The bowhead whale, hunted commercially for centuries for its oil and baleen, was reduced to perhaps only a few thousand individuals by the early 20th century. Yet populations in some areas have recovered substantially. now that commercial hunting has ended, demonstrating the species' capacity to rebuild when given the chance. They persist, generation by generation, their long lives allowing knowledge to survive even when numbers drop dangerously low. Not all whale populations have recovered equally, which brings us to conservation concerns that we can acknowledge gently. Some narwhal and beluga populations remain small and vulnerable, their limited numbers making them susceptible to environmental changes or human impacts. But conservation efforts continue, and our understanding of these whales grows each year. Scientists track populations using various techniques, from aerial surveys to acoustic monitoring, building knowledge that helps protect these remarkable animals. The work continues quietly in the background, researchers dedicating their lives to understanding and preserving Arctic whales. While humans work to protect whales, the whales themselves simply continue living as they always have. A bowhead whale swimming beneath Arctic ice today is doing exactly what its ancestors did 10,000 years ago. Following the same instincts, seeking the same food, singing to the same darkness. There is something deeply comforting in this continuity. In a world of rapid change, Arctic whales remain connected to ancient patterns, living embodiments of persistence. They remind us that some things endure, that adaptation and survival can span geological time, that life finds ways to continue even in the harshest places. This endurance manifests in the smallest details of their biology. The cells of a bowhead whale contain protective mechanisms against age-related damage that humans lack. Specific genetic variations help their cells repair DNA damage more efficiently, resist oxidative stress, and prevent the accumulated errors that lead to aging in other mammals. At the molecular level, bowhead whales have solved problems that continue to confound human medicine. They carry within their DNA the secrets to longevity. We're only beginning to read, their bodies teaching us lessons about health and aging. Beyond genetic secrets, bowhead whales demonstrate something equally valuable in how they exist in their environment. They take only what they need from the ocean, consuming copepods that exist in vast abundance, never depleting their food source beyond its ability to recover. They migrate with the seasons rather than fighting against natural rhythms. They've found a way to live that sustains rather than depletes, that works with nature rather than against it. In their simple act of living, they model a kind of balance that our modern world often lacks. While bowheads model balance through their feeding, narwhals show us the value of specialization. Narwhals have evolved to thrive in one of the most challenging environments on Earth, the ice-choked waters of the high Arctic where few other whales venture. Their specialized adaptations, from their remarkable tusks to their diving abilities to their tolerance for dense ice, allow them to exploit a niche that other animals cannot. They prove that specialization can be a strength, that becoming perfectly adapted to a specific environment allows survival where generalists might fail. This specialization comes with vulnerability, however. Species highly adapted to specific conditions can struggle when those conditions change. Narwhals evolved for a world of extensive sea ice, and as that ice diminishes, their future becomes uncertain. Yet they've survived changing ice conditions before, persisting through natural climate variations across millennia. They possess resilience we may not fully appreciate, the capacity to adapt that allowed their ancestors to survive previous environmental shifts. They face an uncertain future, but they face it as they always have, by continuing to live, to breed, to pass their genes and their knowledge to the next generation. While narwhals specialize in the high Arctic, belugas demonstrate the value of versatility. Beluga populations exist across the Arctic and into subarctic waters, occupying diverse habitats from open ocean to shallow estuaries to ice-covered bays. They eat a wide variety of prey, adjust their behavior to local conditions, and show flexibility in their social organization. This generalist strategy complements their intelligence and adaptability, allowing them to thrive across a broader range than more specialized species. They prove that flexibility can be as valuable as specialization, that the ability to adjust provides its own form of strength. This versatility extends to their interactions with their environment, in ways both large and small. Belugas have been observed using tools in a rudimentary way, picking up objects and manipulating them, sometimes appearing to use them to accomplish specific goals. While not tool use on the level of primates or corvids, it demonstrates problem-solving ability and the capacity to interact with their environment creatively. In shallow waters, belugas sometimes corral fish against shorelines or use bubble clouds to confuse prey, showing cooperative hunting strategies. They approach their world with curiosity and intelligence, finding solutions to the challenges they encounter. Beyond their cognitive abilities, belugas possess remarkable physiological adaptations for shallow water. Their necks are flexible because their cervical vertebrae aren't fused like those of most whales, allowing them to navigate complex underwater terrain in estuaries and coastal areas. They can swim in water just deep enough to cover their bodies, maneuvering through environments where most whales would become stranded. This adaptation opens up habitat that other Arctic whales cannot access, giving belugas access to food sources and refuges unavailable to their larger cousins. While belugas explore shallow waters, bowhead whales demonstrate adaptations for life beneath heavy ice. Their massive bodies generate significant heat through metabolism, and this warmth can actually melt thin ice above them. When a bowhead surfaces to breathe, it sometimes creates a temporary opening in newly formed ice, simply through the heat radiating from its head and back. They carry enough internal warmth to slightly alter their environment, creating breathing space where none existed before. In this small way, they shape the ice world they inhabit, their bodies warm enough to change the state of matter around them. This internal warmth connects to their extraordinary metabolic efficiency. Despite their enormous size, bowhead whales have relatively low metabolic rates compared to smaller mammals. They process energy slowly and efficiently, their large bodies providing thermal mass that helps maintain stable temperature with minimal energy expenditure. A bowhead whale's heart beats slowly, perhaps 8 to 15 beats per minute at rest, each beat pushing blood through the massive circulatory system with methodical patience. Their entire physiology operates on a timescale that seems almost geological to creatures like humans who live so much faster. Not all aspects of whale biology involve such slow rhythms. When hunting or fleeing danger, Arctic whales can accelerate quickly despite their size. A narwhal can burst from rest to high speed in seconds, its streamlined body slicing through water with minimal resistance. Belugas twist and turn with surprising agility, their flexible bodies allowing maneuvers that seem impossible for an animal of their size. Even the massive bowhead can accelerate when needed, though it rarely chooses to move quickly. They possess power held in reserve, speed available when circumstances demand it, but seldom employed without cause. This capacity for both patience and speed reflects a broader pattern in Arctic whale behavior. They are animals of conservation who can act decisively when necessary. Most of their time passes slowly, moving steadily through the water, feeding gradually, resting with half their minds. But when a breathing hole closes, or a predator appears, or migration time arrives, they can shift into purposeful action. They exist most of the time in a state of calm alertness, conserving energy while remaining ready to respond. It's a way of being that balances rest with readiness, patience with purpose. While we speak of balance, let's consider how Arctic whales balance their need for air with their aquatic existence. Every few minutes throughout their entire lives, they must surface to breathe. Yet they've made this requirement seem effortless. The automatic surfacing, the quick efficient breath, the descent back into the water, all of it flows smoothly, barely interrupting their activities. They've integrated the need to breathe air into an otherwise fully aquatic existence so seamlessly that it appears natural. They are mammals that returned to the ocean millions of years ago. And they've perfected that return to the point where water seems like their native element. This seamless aquatic existence extends even to their sleep, which we touched on earlier but deserves deeper consideration. Imagine sleeping while swimming, breathing consciously, never stopping to rest completely. Imagine one eye open while the other closes, one half of your mind awake while the other sleeps. This is the reality for Arctic whales every day of their lives. They've evolved to exist in a state we cannot directly experience, a mode of being that splits consciousness between rest and awareness. In this strange half-sleeping state, they spend years of their lives, decades for long-lived bowheads, existing between wake and sleep. Beyond their unusual sleep patterns, Arctic whales demonstrate remarkable breath control. A narwhal preparing for a deep dive takes several breaths at the surface, hyperventilating slightly to maximize oxygen stores. Then, it exhales, descends, and remains at depth for 20 minutes or more, its heart rate dropping to conserve oxygen. Throughout this time, the urge to breathe must be suppressed, the whale functioning on stored oxygen alone. When it finally returns to the surface, it breathes rapidly for several minutes, repaying its oxygen debt. This cycle of preparation, dive, and recovery happens thousands of times across their lives, their breathing following patterns as regular as tides. While narwhals cycle between surface and depth, bowhead whales demonstrate different breathing patterns suited to their feeding behavior. When feeding, bowheads take breaths every minute or two as they cruise through copepod clouds just below the surface. During travel, they may swim steadily for longer periods between breaths, their large lung capacity allowing them to extract more oxygen from each breath. At rest, their breathing becomes even more relaxed, leisurely breaths taken as needed with no urgency. They adjust their breathing to match their activity level, their respiratory system responding flexibly to their immediate needs. This flexibility appears throughout Arctic whale biology, 2014. They are animals of adaptation, capable of adjusting to varying conditions while maintaining their essential nature. A beluga can move from saltwater to brackish to nearly fresh water, its kidneys adjusting to process different salinity levels. A bowhead can shift from summer feeding to winter fasting, its metabolism adjusting to available resources. A narwhal can hunt at the surface or at 5,000 feet depth, its physiology handling either extreme. They've developed the ability to function across ranges of conditions that would stress most animals, their bodies and behaviors, tuned for versatility within their Arctic realm. Not all whale populations face the same environmental conditions, even within the Arctic. Eastern and western bowhead populations encounter different ice patterns, prey availability, and ocean temperatures. Belugas in Hudson Bay experience different conditions than those in the Beaufort Sea. These varying conditions have led to slight differences between populations, different migration timing, different prey preferences, perhaps even different dialects in their vocalizations. Each population becomes subtly unique, adapted through generations to its specific corner of the Arctic. They are one species but many populations, connected by genetics, but separated by geography and experience. While populations differ, all Arctic whales share the fundamental challenge of surviving in one of Earth's harshest environments. Water near freezing, months of darkness, scarce food for much of the year, ice that can trap and kill. These are the constants of Arctic existence, yet whales don't merely survive these conditions. They thrive in them. They've turned extreme challenges into familiar routine, converting what would kill most mammals into simply the background of daily life. The Arctic is not a hostile environment to them but home, the only place they know, the waters where they feel most themselves. This transformation of harsh environment into home speaks to the power of adaptation across evolutionary time. The ancestors of Arctic whales were terrestrial mammals that lived on land, walked on four legs, and breathed air as they moved across solid ground. Over millions of years, those ancestors returned to the ocean, their bodies transforming until almost nothing of their terrestrial origins remained visible. They kept their warm blood, their mammalian brains, and their need to breathe air. But everything else changed. They traded legs for flippers, fur for blubber, and the stability of land for the freedom of the ocean. And some of them ventured not just into the ocean but into its coldest reaches, specializing in waters that would kill their temperate cousins. This evolutionary journey reminds us that change happens across timescales we struggle to comprehend. The bowhead whale swimming beneath Arctic ice today is the result of millions of years of gradual modification, each generation slightly different from the one before, tiny changes accumulating into dramatic transformation. That same whale might live 2 centuries, witnessing changes in its environment across its own long life, and within a single day, that whale adjusts moment by moment to changing ice, varying prey density, and shifting weather. Evolution, lifetime, and moment all nest within each other, time operating at different scales simultaneously. Beyond time, Arctic whales help us understand scale in other ways. A single bowhead whale weighs as much as 1,000 adult humans. Its heart weighs 400 pounds and pumps 600 gallons of blood. Its tongue weighs a ton. These numbers stretch our comprehension. We know what a pound feels like. But can we really imagine a tongue that weighs 2,000 pounds? Yet this massive scale is simply normal for the whale, the size required to thrive in its environment. Size brings advantages in the Arctic. More thermal mass to maintain warmth, more blubber for energy storage, more power to break through ice. Bowheads grew massive because the Arctic rewarded size. While bowheads dwarf humans, even smaller Arctic whales possess impressive dimensions. An adult beluga reaches 13 to 15 feet in length and weighs up to 3,000 pounds. A narwhal, excluding its tusk, can be 17 feet long and weigh over 3,000 pounds. These are not small animals by any standard except in comparison to the truly enormous baleen whales. They possess enough mass to generate and retain body heat, enough strength to swim against currents and through ice, enough presence to command respect from any observer. They fit their environment perfectly, neither too large to be agile nor too small to handle the cold. This physical presence combines with their mental capacities to create beings of remarkable completeness. Arctic whales possess the physical adaptations to survive extreme cold, the intelligence to navigate complex environments, the social bonds to cooperate and share knowledge, and the longevity to accumulate wisdom across decades or even centuries. They are not simple creatures responding mechanically to their environment, but complex beings with rich behavioral repertoires and apparent inner lives. To watch an Arctic whale is to witness a form of success, a species that has found its place and flourished there for millions of years. As we approach the end of our journey through Arctic whale facts, let's consider one more remarkable aspect of these animals. Despite their size, their adaptations, and their apparent mastery of the Arctic environment, there is still so much we don't know about them. We don't fully understand their communication, their navigation, their social structures, or even the basic patterns of their lives. Much of their existence takes place beneath ice in darkness where humans cannot easily observe. They remain mysterious not because they hide deliberately, but because they live in places and ways that resist easy study. Even now, in our age of sophisticated technology, Arctic whales keep their secrets. This remaining mystery is not frustrating but beautiful. In a world where humans have explored nearly every surface, where satellites photograph every square mile, and technology extends our senses into every realm, it's wonderful that mystery remains. Arctic whales remind us that the world still holds wonders we haven't fully grasped, that nature exceeds our understanding, that some things remain wild and unknown. They swim through the Arctic Ocean as they have for millions of years, largely unbothered by human attempts to study and categorize them, living their lives according to patterns we glimpse but don't fully comprehend. And perhaps that's how it should be. Perhaps Arctic whales need not be fully understood to be appreciated. Perhaps it's enough to know they exist, to marvel at their adaptations, to recognize their intelligence and beauty, to respect their right to continue living in the far north, as they always have. They ask nothing from us, except to be left in peace, to swim their migrations and sing their songs, and raise their calves in the cold waters that have been their home for longer than our species has existed. And now the whales fade behind your thoughts. We've drifted through 100 quiet truths about Arctic whales. From the ancient bowheads singing beneath winter ice to the playful belugas in summer estuaries, from the mysterious narwhals with their spiral tusks to the patient whale. These animals exist in one of Earth's harshest environments. You are connected to this world. The same ocean that covers the Arctic reaches every shore, the same water that chills beneath polar ice warms in tropical seas, all of it connected, all of it one. The oxygen in your lungs may have been in the ocean yesterday, released by phytoplankton. Like those that feed copepods that feed whales, you breathe the same air, drink the same water, exist on the same small planet as these magnificent animals. You are not separate from their world, but part of it, connected by the elements that sustain all life. Tonight, as you rest, bowhead whales continue their slow migrations beneath the ice. Belugas call to each other in dark waters. Narwhals descend into depths we can barely imagine, hunting by sound in absolute darkness. The Arctic turns on its axis, ice forms and melts, and life continues in patterns as old as ice itself. And you are safe, warm, resting in a world full of wonder. A world where whales sing in the darkness and mysteries persist beneath frozen seas. If you're still awake, go ahead and watch the next chapter. But if sleep is pulling you down like a whale descending into deep water, let it take you. Let your mind drift like ice on dark currents. Let your breathing slow to the pace of whale hearts beating beneath the Arctic Ocean. Sleep well and dream softly. Dream of ice and water, of patient giants gliding through the cold, of songs that echo through centuries. Good night.